Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Clutch Takes, and today we're going to be talking about how the Sacramento Kings are eyeing a big fish on the trade market and that they're interested in Pascal Siakam. But does a trade make sense for the Toronto Raptors? Let's get into it. Now before we get into the video, please make sure to drop a like, comment down below what you guys think if the Raptors should make a trade with the Sacramento Kings, and subscribe if you guys are new.
A little bit of a backstory of why the Kings are going hard for Siakam and Ben Simmons is because they're sick and tired of missing the playoffs, which is understandable. So it looks like that they're going to be willing to give up almost anything for another star to go along with Fox. Siakam is a perfect player to play with along with Fox, as they're both very explosive and fast, and I could see why they would be choosing to target Simmons and Siakam, as their play style is actually similar to that. Siakam would fit better because he'd be a very good wing player to play alongside with Fox. Siakam is 27 years old. He has 3 years left in his deal, so it's a lot of years to have Siakam. He's currently going into his prime. He's not old, so the age gap between Fox and Siakam is not that big. I think that they would be willing to give up any assets to get him, so the Raptors can be in a very big deal.
Well, it makes a lot of sense for the Sacramento Kings. It's just if it makes sense for the Toronto Raptors, as Pascal Siakam is still the Raptors' best player on the team, and like Evan just mentioned, he has 3 years left on his deal. It's not like he's an expiring player. He has a lot of years of control, which means the Sacramento Kings have 3 years to win with Siakam, a 3-year window. So having said that, the Raptors need to have at least one player in this deal that gives them a bright future, as draft picks are always hit and miss. And I feel like this player that makes it a game changer, if the Raptors do this or not, is Tyrese Halliburton.
A lot of trades been throwing around, mainly with Bagley and picks, as in Barnes being thrown in there for the cap space. But like Dan said about Halliburton being in the trade as a must, Halliburton has the most potential, and Bagley's been in the league for a while and he hasn't proven anything. So he'd be a very an experimentation, and you don't want a unsure thing, as Halliburton could also be said as an unsure player to be trading for.
Well, Halliburton has already been in the Rookie of the Year race. Obviously he didn't win it, but he's a player that you can easily see becoming an all-star. Players like Bagley, it's he's had problems with the head coaching staff, but he also just has not lived up to the potential of the number 2 overall pick, such as Luka Doncic and Trae Young, players who were drafted after him. Bagley has just not lived up to that potential, and I feel like that potential of him becoming a star, he's still young, I honestly feel like that is low-key fading a little bit. I feel like now at this point of his career, he's more of a reclamation project. So having players like Barnes or say Buddy Hield, players who they want to get rid of anyway, that is not really valuable. They're still fine players that could fit on a championship winning team, but obviously the Raptors are trying to get younger, or else they wouldn't trade Siakam. So any player like Buddy Hield or Harrison Barnes are just nice players, I guess, to have on the bench to maybe flip later for more picks.
Yeah, what Dan's trying to say is that with the Lowry trade, we believe that they kind of got undervalued. They didn't get the value that they should have gotten with Lowry in that trade. And Siakam has much more value than Lowry right now, because Lowry's 36 and Siakam's 27. He's going into his prime, and he's been an all-star, and he still can be an all-star in the right situation. But getting Hield or Barnes, kind of like the Dragic thing. It's you're just getting a player that you don't really want, but you have to. So the Raptors should be getting more because of that, since they're taking a bad contract, replacing it with an all-star Siakam. They should be getting more, as in picks, Halliburton and Bagley, because Bagley and Halliburton both haven't proven anything. Yes, they're young, but usually you can't just bank on potential of a player. You want a for sure thing that's going to happen.
Well, it's if you're trading Pascal Siakam, you're obviously taking a step backwards. You're trying to gain assets for the future. So it's this is a trade you really can't mess up. This is a trade that people understand. People are always don't trade Siakam, don't trade Siakam. That is understandable, but the Raptors are also at a point where there's a lot of competitive teams in the East, the Bucks and the Nets. It's going to be really hard to win. So are the Raptors really going to be competing for a championship in these next 3 seasons? In my opinion, I personally do not think so, as it's really hard to attract star players that come in free agency, and I don't think we're going to be that far down in the draft. So Evan has mentioned this a lot of times in the past. I think it's a win-win situation if we get a big haul for Pascal Siakam, because those young players such as Halliburton and Bagley, the Raptors have a great development system to make them grow even further to potentially become that number one guy. But even if they don't, like, those two players and potential draft picks can be used later on to be acquired for a Kawhi Leonard trade, which we need to win, obviously.
The Kings are in a certain scenario in their like timeline where they haven't made the playoffs or haven't had any success for like 14 years. They're in the same process of like, they're in the same mindset as the Raptors actually were back when the Chris Bosh days, where they wanted to get just in the playoffs and be a competitive team. They weren't thinking about winning a chip. They just wanted to be in the playoffs. So they traded for Lowry, which was a head case at the time, and that's how the Raptors became like competitive. You can't just go skip from like being like a bottom feeding team to being like, you know, championship caliber team. You have to take the steps to get there.
Well, obviously it makes a lot of sense for the Sacramento Kings too, because it's like they're not just going for like a rotational player, they're going for a player who was literally all second NBA team just in 2020. And the Sacramento Kings, I feel like they need to be really desperate to make the playoffs, as I feel like they're losing a lot of their fan base right now. You know, obviously ticket sales are still matter a lot. It's like, then you pair Siakam with a player like Fox who broke out. You know, Siakam could potentially even be the second option depending how you view them, like a 1A, 1B system. They're both extremely fast players, just like how Simmons is a fast player. They both can be defensive players as well. I just think it makes a lot of sense for the Sacramento Kings, and I think the Raptors need to take advantage of the Sacramento Kings' desperateness and fully get the haul they need for Siakam.
Usually trades, like, it's either like going to be even or like you're going to lose the trade if you want to trade, if with a team that's like not necessarily desperate, kind of like the Heat. But like when you go and you trade with a team that's very desperate, for example, it's the reason we got Kawhi Leonard. Spurs were desperately trying to get rid of Kawhi Leonard, and they were trying to find a team that's suited enough to get like assets from, and that's how we got Kawhi Leonard. So targeting teams that are very desperate is actually the best way to go, because if the Raptors try to trade Siakam to Golden State's going to be like, I'm not going to trade you, or I'm not going to give you the M&A assets. We're already that good. We just want Siakam. We don't really need him. Whereas Sacramento is like, we need him. We need to start winning, and we need to build a winning culture. And they're like, oh, Siakam's been in the finals. He's broken records in the finals. He's been an all-star, like first team, like, you know, like the starting lineup, and he's been like a second all-team NBA.
Siakam is also like way less of a reclamation project as Ben Simmons. I know Siakam is not like the greatest shooter out there, but he has the defense, he has the speed, he has the driving to the basket ability. Obviously, we saw when he played with another star player, like he played with Kawhi Leonard, when the attention is not as much directed on him, which it will be like that with De'Aaron Fox, he plays so much better. So I feel like it's so much better of a trade than trading for Ben Simmons, as you don't have to worry about all those other things. And the 76ers were obviously being outlandish with their asking price, asking for a star player and for first round picks. Obviously they know they can't get that, but they're just overvaluing him a lot. The Raptors obviously need to go even above what we're saying with Halliburton and Bagley to bring it down to get to this point.
I honestly feel like Siakam going to Sacramento would be the best for him too, is because like he's not going to be like the number one option. He's going to be dependent on to get the, you know, scoring up, because like Fox has been developing. He broke out last year with getting like 24 points per game. He's like scoring machine, and he's like a very good playmaker. And I think that with Siakam being like, kind of like a duo with him, will be able to like get him out of his comfort zone and also make him a better player himself and have success. Whereas like if he stays on the Raptors, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like when they say, oh, don't trade Siakam, why would you do that? It's like, okay, he has 3 years left in his deal. He's 27. Like Dan said, are we winning the championship in 3 years? So you're just wasting his prime. I feel bad for Siakam if we just kept him and let him rot with the team that's like not going anywhere. I'd rather I love the Raptors, and I would like to see the Raptors players like have success, even if it's not on the Raptors. So like him leaving helps the Raptors and also helps Siakam.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, we're not just saying to trade Siakam for like peanuts. We're not saying to just take Harrison Barnes and Bagley and then some picks and call it a day. We're thinking about, the Raptors taking advantage of Sacramento's desperateness and getting that haul that Siakam deserves to get. But let us know what you guys think. Do you guys feel the same way that we do? Do you guys think the Raptors won't get this so that they should just forget about it? Let us know in the comments down below. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.